guys, it's me, Rebecca Beneteau, and I have had stuff on my mind for a while, and every time I go to make a video, something has happened with either the internet connection or I talk myself out of it because I don't have makeup on or I don't think I have enough time, whatever. So I really wanted to make another one of these Rebecca Rambles and talk to you today about consent and what's going on with people. I'm kind of vamping for a little bit right now. Hi. I've got a few friends watching. Hi, Adriana. Hi, Mike. What I want to say is that I'm going to wait like just another minute. I'm going to vamp because what I found is that people need to find out that this is actually rolling live, and then they tune in. So I don't want them to miss any of the juicy stuff that I'm about to talk about. But what's inspired this video today is Matt Lauer, the latest in a series of men in power who, hi Aaron, men in power are falling like flies, right? And the thing that's great about this is that it's a sign that as women, we are done with this bullshit. You know, for a very long time, we have not come forward, women who have, and men, individuals who have been perpetrated by others in a non-consensual situation have been afraid to come forward because we are not have not been believed, because we have been shamed, and now that's not happening. Now, it doesn't matter whether the event happened last week or 20 years ago, women are saying, enough is enough, I'm not taking the blame and holding on to the shame anymore, I'm going to name names. So, first, I'm going to start with telling you one of my Metoo stories, because I have a bunch. I have a lot of instances. I guess it's just my karma. One of the things that I've come into this universe to heal, where people have been sexual with me without my consent. So I'm going to tell you one of my Metoo stories, and then I want to talk a little bit about what to do when you are finding yourself in that situation as a woman, as a man, as the person who is receiving the inappropriate attention. And I also want to talk to some of you because one of the things that I think is going to happen is now everyone is going to become terrified to make advances to anyone because we're becoming afraid. Okay. I also want to say that not only am I Me Too, but I'm her. And I think that this is really important thing for us to look at, that we all have the ability to be not just the victim, but also the villain in the scene. And that happened for me most recently, a couple of years ago, actually, 3 years ago, when I walked into a gathering, a party, and the best friend of the guy that I was dating was there. And I walked up and I hugged him hello, and then I French kissed him and said, give this to Ethan. Now, he and I, this person I did this to, did not have that kind of relationship. I had never stuck my tongue in his mouth. We had never exchanged that. But I got away with it in the moment. And sometimes I think as women, we think we can get away with it because guys just really want to be French kissed. So yay. But no. And I sat and I was like, oh my God, I have just become the perpetrator. And I had to go up to him and apologize immediately for being inappropriate. And he accepted it. We went on. We became friends. We stayed friends. Okay. Now I'm going to tell you my Me Too story that I haven't talked about. Now, a lot of you know that what I do professionally, I have a coaching company called Pleasure Evolution, and I'm passionate about helping people connect to their sexuality. One of the reasons that I do that is because when I was 8, I was molested by the doorman in my apartment building. And what I took away from that was that it wasn't safe to be joyful. And it wasn't safe. I was 8. I was in my little bikini in the front of the apartment building. And this man took me into a room, into the mail room, and pulled down my bathing suit and kissed my vagina and then masturbated in front of me to orgasm, to climax. And I can just remember, how it smelled, and I can just remember the vividness. And I was like terrified, but also kind of riveted and excited. And I think this is one of the problems with an adult introducing sexuality to a child is that I wasn't old enough. I didn't have the neurons hooked up in my brain to understand what was then energetically running through my body. Okay, so why am I mentioning that? And I'm sorry if this is hard for anybody to hear, but the fact that I got the connection to my own love of my body and my love of my sexuality broken in that time is that my healing is the reason that I'm passionate about what I do now. It's about helping other people walk through what I had to walk through. So, hi Becky, Kim, Michael, Jackie. Great to see you all. Okay, so that was, I thought I was only going to tell one incident. I didn't expect to tell that childhood incident. I'm going to talk now, because I started with Matt Lauer, I want to talk about consent. Okay. Consent is making a decision together. Consent with knowledge. Knowledge together. You cannot give consent. You cannot get consent from someone who is not capable of giving it. So, that means when there is a power imbalance, any kind of power imbalance, whether it be age, authority, whether you think the person can fire you or make your career, whether it's real, like yes, they can get you fired, or just perceived, college professors, anyone who is in a position of power, a doctor, anything that they do to another person, even if the person is kind of a yes, they don't really have the ability to be a yes. And if they're not a hell yes, they're a no. So, when I was in my early 30s, I decided that I wanted to get my bat mitzvah. For those of you not in the know, not in the tribe, a bat mitzvah is a coming-of-age ceremony that Jewish 13-year-olds go through. I never got one because when I was a teenager, they didn't really do girls' bat mitzvahs that much. And so I was studying one-on-one with a rabbi. And I walk in there and I'm crying because my husband, who is not Jewish, I felt was really dishonoring me around the sacred holiday of Yom Kippur, right? So I was not eating in observance of this holiday, and he's eating and he's making fun of me. So, and it really just hurt my spirit. So I go to this rabbi that I'm coaching with, and he's comforting me. He puts his arms around me, and then he puts my face in his hands and he kisses me on the mouth. And he starts breathing really heavily. Now, I should tell you that this rabbi was 83 years old when he did this, and I was 33. And then he proceeded to tell me that in the Bible, in the Torah, it says that a guy who's feeling darker impulses, if he goes to another town and indulges in those impulses, it's better than him suppressing and repressing them. And I just basically sat there completely shocked. Ended the session, walked out, never went back, never pursued my education, and actually felt pretty alienated from Judaism. At that time, which this was quite a few years ago now, I told the rabbi at the synagogue, the junior rabbi, so I reported this man, and I thought I was going to tell this story and not name him, but for all the people who have courageously named their perpetrators, I'm going to tell you that I was perpetrated by Rabbi Joseph Gelberman, founder of the New Synagogue in New York City. And I told the board of the synagogue, and I told Junior Rabbi Roger Ross, and they didn't do anything about it. So that's an example of an abuse of power. I perceived him as the caretaker of my spiritual life. And now I'm going to tell you something, and I think this is a little bit controversial and radical, but I can say it to you as a survivor of perpetration, which is, you know what? That happened. So what? Now what? See, this is the thing, right? We get into this whole spin about, like, this thing happened to me, and now I'm going to use it to justify all the places that I don't step out in my life. I'm going to use it for all of the victimization and martyrdom that I want. And you know what? As somebody who has made a fantastic life, not in spite of, but because of what happened to me, I really want to encourage people to look at the things that happened to them and gone, okay, so what? Now what? Now what am I going to do? Now what am I going to do with the pain that this caused in me? Now what am I going to do with the dysfunctions that it caused in me? Now what am I going to do with the bad habits it's caused in me? Because after, what happened to me, I picked up alcohol at the age of 12, 4 years after what happened, and I almost drank myself to death. Okay? That was my choice, and thank God I don't have to do it anymore. So, I promise to tell those stories, and then I want to give some resources that I think are really important. If you are a person who feels okay, when somebody takes advantage of someone, even at the risk of losing their job, this is compulsive lusting. Okay, this is not normal behavior. And just because I am a sex coach doesn't mean I don't believe in sex addiction. When you are doing something, cheating on a partner, jeopardizing your job at work, jeopardizing your financial situations, there's a possibility that you are in the throes of an addiction to lust. It's sometimes called sexaholism, sex addiction. There are places you can go. There are recovery centers you can go. There are 12-step programs that you can go to. Places like SA, Sexaholics Anonymous, Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, Sex Addicts Anonymous. There are lots of places where people are actually looking at, wow, Matt Lauer, hello, you have just blown up in your entire career and your reputation and your marriage because you locked the door, kept women in your office and flashed them, and did other appropriate behaviors. You have lost the good judgment. You are powerless, right? So if you are finding that in spite of things that you put in jeopardy, you cannot control you're looking for new partners, you're constantly craving sexuality, you're taking sex from people who don't want it, please. So what? Now what? Now what are you going to do about it? You can recover, you can shift your life. Okay. If you're on the other side and you have been perpetrated, as I have, you can also get help. You can go for therapy. You can go for every group for addiction. There's what they call a non-group. And I look at what happened to me. When you are affected by someone else's compulsive lusting or sexaholism, it's kind of like getting bitten by a werewolf. And you've got it now. And there are certain triggers and there are certain things. And I noticed that for me, one of the things that was happening was I was continuing to validate myself through other people's sexual attraction rather than finding a sense of self within myself. So what do you do if you're one of those people? You can go. There are groups like Essanon and KOSLA and KOSA and CODA. Get help. Take responsibility. Decide who you want to be now, and you can shift it. Okay, so there we go. I'm a little bit on my soapbox today. This is very serious. I know you're used to me usually like trying to giving hot sex tips. But guess what? You can't have hot sex tips if all this stuff is going on. You can't have hot sex when you got all this stuff going on in your brain. So, all right. The third thing I said I wanted to give was how do we approach people when we're afraid now of being labeled a perpetrator? Well, I think there are some things that are pretty clear. There's this hilarious infographic going around that it's all about consent. If you're in a work-related environment, it's probably not appropriate to ask for sex. But when it comes to consent, it's this simple. We learned it in grade school. Mother Mary. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you. Mother May I. We used to play that game when we were kids in the schoolyard. I still don't really get the point. Like somebody would stand all the way across at the other end of the playground and you'd yell, Mother May I take 2 steps? And she'd say yes, and you'd take 2 steps. And then the point was to get there and catch them, and then you could be the mother. But anyway, So here's what I want to say. Like, consent is sexy. Asking first is sexy. And if you can't ask because you're so afraid of getting rejected, or because you're coming from so much entitlement that you just think they want you, get over yourself. Look at healing that fear of rejection. If somebody rejects you, they're not rejecting you, they're rejecting your offer. Make them an offer, and then be able and be willing to hear no. But at least you're both clear. So if you are thinking if you want to give someone a compliment, can you give them a compliment on how attractive they are without any strings attached, without any expectation, without any knowing or thinking that I'm going to tell you you're pretty? See, the reason a lot of women don't like being catcalled is because they feel objectified. But if you just genuinely say to someone with no expectation of anything in return, you look pretty today. If you're interested in getting to know somebody, I find you attractive. I'm wondering if we have anything in common. Would you like to get some coffee and talk about it? You don't jump from, hey, you're attractive, to, let's have sex. That journey can be part of the fun. All right, so here's the charge, folks. Get into Mother May I. Start appreciating the dance of asking for consent. I'd like to do this. Is that okay with you? I mean, even when you're with a partner for a long time, sometimes they don't want you to touch them. This isn't just about new people. Life changes in every moment. Get here right now. Right here, right now. All right. Well, that's it for me. I'm glad I just finally, turned on my camera and started talking and shared all this with you. Thanks a lot for listening. And if you want to hear more of my rambles, and if you think other people would like me, someone shared some love, thank you. Please like this video. Please like my page on Facebook, Pleasure Evolution. Check out my channel on Pleasure Evolution TV, where, I talk about all kinds of things, from falling in love with my own body, to consent, to how to have hot sex, because it's all good. And check me out at pleasureevolution.com. Thanks for watching, and I will see you again, because